The human princess was surrounded, yet she never retreated. Stars shimmered through the swirling clouds of colored gases, making the void look alive, almost like the galaxy itself was watching. Her fleet, a small but determined group of human ships, hovered in formation, engines humming quietly. All around her, the alien coalition was gathering. Ships of the Chiron, sleek and silver, gliding with perfect formation. Vork dreadnoughts, massive and bristling with armaments. And the crystalline tellies, their hulls sparkling like living gemstones. It was a sight that would have terrified most, but Alara did not flinch. Ever since she was a child, Alara had been trained for situations like this. She had studied alien civilizations, strategies, and ancient human tactics. Her tutors had told her humans were underestimated because they were unpredictable. That unpredictability was now her greatest weapon. Every officer on the bridge knew it. The tension was high, but the fear was tempered by trust. They trusted her to lead them. "Princess," Captain Ravan said, stepping forward. He was a tall man with a stern face, but his eyes betrayed the pride he felt serving under her. "They are closing in faster than predicted. Our scanners show the Chiron are attempting a flanking maneuver." Alara's lips curved slightly into a calm smile. "Let them flank. Humans have faced worse odds before. Hold the formation and keep your eyes on their weak points. They will make mistakes. We only need to be ready." The captain nodded, though he couldn't hide a flicker of concern. The human fleet was outnumbered at least 5-1. Every other civilization in the galaxy would have panicked, called for retreat. But Alara had never been like other leaders. She knew that retreating now would not save them. In fact, it would be exactly what the aliens expected, and humans had always thrived when the enemy underestimated them. Around them, the alien ships started moving, like predators sensing their prey. Beams of light and energy cut across the nebula, highlighting the contours of distant asteroids. The Chiron sent scouts to encircle the human fleet. The Vork hung back, waiting to strike with their massive warships. And the Tellies, unpredictable as ever, shifted positions as if communicating with the nebula itself. Alara's mind was already racing. She tapped a panel on her command console, activating a series of cloaking pulses. The human ships flickered in and out of visibility. The aliens, confident in their numerical advantage, would think it a small trick. They were wrong. The humans were never just tricking, they were adapting. Every pulse was calculated to create openings for rapid movement, and every movement was designed to confuse the enemy about their true numbers and positions. "Princess," Lieutenant Mara spoke up, her voice steady but filled with anticipation. "The cloaking fields are active. Sensors show multiple interference patterns in their detection arrays. They can't be sure where we are." Alara nodded. "Good. Let's make them think the humans are weaker than we are. They will reveal themselves soon." The officers exchanged glances. Some still couldn't believe how calm she was. There was no panic in her tone, no fear in her eyes, only focus, only strategy, only the certainty that humans could turn any corner into an advantage. For hours, the fleets circled each other. The nebula created a maze of obstacles, and the humans used it perfectly. They darted between asteroid clusters, slipped behind drifting clouds of gas, and appeared suddenly in places the aliens didn't expect. Each maneuver was small, almost invisible, but together they formed a rhythm that the alien fleets could not anticipate. "Princess," Ravan said quietly, "they're testing our reactions. They've launched probe drones into the nebula." Alara leaned forward, watching the data streams. The drones were small, fast, and numerous, scanning for weaknesses, but the humans had a plan. "Let them come," she said. "Humans see things other species cannot. Their drones will find nothing that matters." She activated the neural decoy network, a human-designed AI that could mimic the movements of ships, creating dozens of phantom vessels in the enemy's sensors. The aliens would see a massive fleet where there were only a handful of ships. Panic could not be programmed, but deception could. The AI had been tested in simulations countless times, but never against real opponents of this magnitude. Now it was their turn. The first alien scouts fell into the trap immediately. They sent signals back to their commanders, indicating a massive increase in human numbers. The Vork, proud and confident, snarled at the readout. "Impossible," their commander transmitted. "Humans cannot be this numerous. Engage with caution." Alara heard the communication through intercepted channels. She smiled. Humans had one advantage in every battle, the ability to think in ways others did not expect. Predictability was an enemy of humans, and her fleet had learned that lesson well. The hours passed. Each human ship moved with a precision that seemed impossible given the chaos surrounding them. The aliens attempted to coordinate, but every order was disrupted by the humans' unpredictable movements. One moment, a ship appeared in one sector, the next it vanished, only to appear behind a Vork destroyer, scanning for weak points. Every time the aliens thought they had cornered a human vessel, it had already moved, leaving behind only faint traces in the nebula's gases. Alara remained calm through all of it. Her hands hovered over her console, making small adjustments, issuing quiet commands. She had not left her training behind, nor the lessons of history. Humans had survived against overwhelming odds countless times before, from ancient skirmishes on Earth to interstellar conflicts in the early expansion of the Terran Empire. This was another challenge, and humans had never been ones to back down. Her mind also wandered briefly to her crew. She knew each of them personally, knew their strengths, their fears, their hopes. They trusted her not because she was a princess, but because she had earned it. Leadership was more than rank, it was courage, clarity, and vision. And humans, as a species, had shown throughout history that courage could outmatch strength, vision could outmatch numbers. The alien fleet began to tighten their circle. The Shiren moved in from the left, Vork from the right, and the Tellies above and below. Alara's fleet was now literally surrounded. Most commanders would have panicked, ordered a retreat, surrendered, but Alara's mind was already 3 steps ahead. Retreat would play into the aliens' hands. Surrender was never an option. Humans did not yield when cornered. They adapted, they improvised, they surprised. "Princess," Mara said, voice low, "we're completely surrounded. They could crush us if they coordinate properly." Alara turned her gaze to the nebula beyond the encirclement. The colored gases swirled in patterns that almost seemed alive. She smiled slightly. "Then we will force them to coordinate poorly. Humans see angles others cannot. We will use this nebula to our advantage. Prepare the maneuver sequences. Follow my lead." The human ships responded with seamless precision. Each pilot knew their role. Each officer knew the importance of timing. And as the alien fleets moved in for the perceived kill, the humans darted in ways that no alien calculation could predict. Asteroids became shields, nebula gases became invisibility, and human ingenuity became the deadliest weapon. Hours turned into night, though in space, night had little meaning. But time passed, and still Alara's fleet held its ground. Small victories appeared. A Vork destroyer found itself trapped behind an asteroid cluster, unable to maneuver. A Telly's cruiser sent confusing energy pulses that disrupted their own formation. The Shiren mistook decoy signals for reinforcements, hesitating at critical moments. Every small disruption mattered. Every small human decision rippled outward, causing the aliens to hesitate, to doubt, to falter. Alara's heart beat steadily. She was aware of the tension in the bridge, but she projected calm. Calm was contagious. Her crew moved with confidence because she believed in them and in humans. For all the alien civilizations believed in their strength, they underestimated one constant in the galaxy. Humans thrived when others doubted them. As the first part of the standoff came to an end, Alara allowed herself a small, private thought. This was only the beginning. The aliens would not stop. They would continue to press, to test, to challenge. But humans had faced far worse, on far smaller scales, and had always adapted. She knew that as long as they did not lose their nerve, as long as they held their ground and thought creatively, they could survive anything the galaxy threw at them. She looked out at the stars again, the nebula shimmering around her. Somewhere deep inside, she felt the pulse of human determination, the unyielding force that had carried her species from the first colonies on distant planets to the farthest reaches of space. Here in the nebula of silent echoes, surrounded by forces that could easily destroy them, that same force was alive, vibrant, unbroken. And Alara knew that no matter what came next, no matter how tight the encirclement, no matter how vast the enemy, humans would never retreat. The nebula shimmered with colors no human had ever named, clouds of gas twisting like flowing silk in the emptiness of space. Princess Alara stood on the bridge of the Aurora's edge, her hands resting lightly on the railing. Around her, the small human fleet moved like a living organism, each ship reacting instantly to subtle changes in the alien formations surrounding them. The alien coalition had begun their coordinated advance, assuming that their numerical superiority would be enough to overwhelm the humans. But Alara knew better. Her mind worked quickly, analyzing every movement, every shift in formation. The Chiron ships glided closer on the left flank, their silver hulls reflecting the nebula's eerie light. The Vork were methodical on the right, their dreadnoughts massive and imposing, moving with predictable precision. And the Tellies, above and below, shimmered like living crystals, constantly changing position in ways that seemed chaotic but were actually carefully calculated. Humans had learned that predictability was the enemy of survival. And Alara intended to exploit every assumption the aliens made. "Princess," Captain Ravan spoke, his voice tense but calm, "they're attempting to cut off our retreat path through the asteroid belt. If we don't respond quickly, we could be trapped." Alara's gaze swept over the nebula and the shifting asteroids. She could see the opportunity hidden within the danger. "Good," she said quietly. "Let them try. They will think they have us cornered, but humans turn corners into advantages." "Prepare the fleet for the nebula drift maneuver." Lieutenant Mara's eyes widened. "The nebula drift, that's risky. We'd have to split the fleet into smaller groups and navigate through the densest clouds of gas. Sensors could fail, ships could get lost." Alara turned to her young lieutenant, her expression calm but firm. "Yes, it is risky, but humans are at their best when others expect failure. Trust your instincts. Trust the fleet. We will emerge where they least expect us." The human pilots responded with a quiet murmur of acknowledgement. Every officer knew the drill. Every ship in the fleet had been prepared for months for situations like this, and now it was time to execute. The Aurora's edge moved first, threading between clouds of violet gas, its engines flaring gently to avoid detection. Behind them, smaller frigates followed in synchronized motion, each calculating the exact distance needed to avoid collisions while maintaining the illusion of a larger fleet. The aliens noticed immediately. Sensors picked up the movement and transmissions crackled with confusion. "They are splitting," a Vork officer exclaimed. "They cannot survive the drift," but Alara had anticipated this reaction. As the human ships entered the densest part of the nebula, the neural decoy network activated fully. Hundreds of phantom ships appeared in the enemy's sensors, moving unpredictably among the real vessels. The aliens, already confused by the unpredictable drift, now faced the illusion of an overwhelming human fleet. The Chiron hesitated, the Vork recalculated, and the Tellies emitted pulses that reflected indecision. Alara smiled. "Now," she whispered to herself, "the game begins." From the safety of the nebula clouds, the human ships executed precise maneuvers. Small teams darted around asteroids to create distractions, while others used the gas clouds to hide their approach. The aliens, unable to distinguish reality from illusion, began to misalign their formation. A Vork dreadnought found itself isolated, surrounded by decoy signals. The Tellies, trying to reposition, collided with sensor interference, slowing their movement. Every hesitation, every misstep was exactly what Alara had predicted. "Princess," Ravan said, a note of admiration in his voice, "they are losing their coordination. The decoys, it's working perfectly." Alara nodded, her eyes scanning the display. "Perfectly is not enough. We need them to make a mistake we can exploit. Keep pushing, keep adapting. Humans thrive on turning hesitation into opportunity." The aliens began to communicate, their signals filled with panic and frustration. The Chiron commander, known for patience, struggled to coordinate multiple fleets simultaneously. The Vork, who prided themselves on strength, were forced into cautious maneuvers they had never before attempted. And the Tellies, sensitive to energy flows, found the nebula's shifting currents disrupted their usual calculations. Alara's mind raced, connecting threads faster than anyone else could. She identified weak points in the alien formations and calculated the optimal path for small strike teams. "Lieutenant Mara," she called, "take your squad and navigate the northern channel. Use the drift to your advantage and approach the Vork command cruiser from behind the asteroid field. Avoid detection at all costs." "Yes, Princess," Mara replied, her voice steady. She turned to her team, issuing quiet commands. The ships moved like shadows, gliding between asteroids, invisible to most sensors. This was not an attack. It was a demonstration of human ingenuity, a show of tactical brilliance without confrontation. The Vork, focused on the supposed larger human fleet, never noticed the small squad approaching their command cruiser. Alara watched with satisfaction. The human's strength lay not in raw power, but in creativity, adaptability, and courage. Every alien officer believed they could predict human behavior, but humans were fundamentally unpredictable. Every decision was a potential advantage, every hesitation by the enemy a step toward victory. Hours passed, and the human fleet continued to maneuver with precision. The nebula, once a place of uncertainty, became their ally. They used its dense gases to shield their movements, its shifting energy currents to disrupt enemy sensors, and its beauty to mask the deadly efficiency of their strategy. Meanwhile, the alien coalition grew increasingly frustrated. They had underestimated humans, assuming that small numbers meant weakness. Yet here, surrounded by a fraction of the fleet they commanded, humans were turning the tables. The Chiron commander transmitted a message, almost incredulous. How can such few oppose so many? Their coordination, it defies logic. Alara received the message through intercepted channels and allowed herself a small, quiet smile. Humans were often underestimated because other species could not see beyond simple metrics: numbers, strength, and predictable strategy. But humans measured success differently, through ingenuity, adaptability, and courage in the face of impossible odds. "Princess," Revan said, leaning close, "the Northern Squad has reached the Vork cruiser undetected. They are reporting multiple observation points confirmed and ready to relay information." "Excellent," Alara replied. "Information is the real weapon. Let them continue to miscalculate while we prepare the next move. Humans do not attack blindly. We observe, adapt, and act with precision. Every choice we make has purpose." As the alien fleets continued to struggle against the human deception, a subtle change occurred. The Vork, unable to align their ships properly, began drifting into the wrong positions. The Chiron, frustrated by phantom ships, slowed their advance. And the Teles, distracted by energy fluctuations, sent bursts of communication that disrupted coordination further. The human fleet, small but united, exploited every moment. Alara's mind was already looking ahead. The next phase of the plan would involve not just avoidance, but calculated engagement, small, precise movements that would show the aliens the true scope of human resourcefulness. "Prepare for the relay phase," she commanded. "We will turn hesitation into advantage, observation into control. Humans survive where others fail because we think differently." Her officers moved with practiced efficiency. Mara and her squad transmitted data to the Aurora's edge, mapping the weaknesses in the alien formation. The neural network continued to feed false signals, creating phantom ships and multiple escape routes. The aliens, desperate to respond, were caught in a web of misdirection they could not untangle. Time became irrelevant in the nebula. Hours passed like minutes, every movement calculated, every signal monitored. The humans were no longer just surviving, they were shaping the battlefield. The aliens, despite their numbers and technology, were reacting to the humans' choices rather than initiating their own. And in that moment, the balance of power began to shift. "Princess," Mara said quietly, awe in her voice, "they are adapting to our actions too slowly. The Vork command cruiser is isolated and has limited communication with the rest of their fleet." Alara's eyes gleamed. "Exactly as predicted, we do not need to destroy them. We only need to show them that humans are not controlled by numbers. Observation, adaptation, and decisiveness, these are our weapons. Let them realize that what they thought was weakness is strength." For the first time, the aliens began to hesitate visibly. Even the Teles, who were renowned for calm precision, slowed their energy pulses, unsure of what was real and what was decoy. The Chiron's fleet wavered, while the Vork recalculated endlessly. Humans, by their unpredictability, had forced the coalition to confront something new, a species that thrived on thought, ingenuity, and adaptability. Alara breathed deeply, feeling the pulse of human determination that had carried them across countless worlds and battles. Surrounded, outnumbered, yet unyielding, humans had always excelled when the odds were stacked against them. Every maneuver executed in the drift, every decoy generated by the neural network, every observation reported by her squad reinforced one undeniable truth: humans could survive and even flourish where others would falter. The nebula seemed to hold its breath as the human fleet continued to move with precision. Every alien miscalculation, every hesitation, every misread signal widened the advantage. Alara's strategy was simple, yet brilliant in its execution. Turn every expectation of weakness into a demonstration of human capability. They were not attacking in the conventional sense. They were winning through intelligence, creativity, and unbreakable resolve. As the first phase of the maneuver came to an end, Alara allowed herself a moment to reflect. The aliens would regroup, surely. They would adapt, try new strategies, attempt to corner the humans once more. But the humans had proven a principle. Even surrounded, even outnumbered, they would never retreat. The galaxy would remember this long before the battle was over. Her gaze swept across the bridge, meeting the eyes of every officer. Pride, confidence, and determination reflected back at her. The humans had faced the impossible and remained unbroken. And as the nebula clouds swirled, hiding them from immediate danger, one thing became clear. The next phase of the encounter would show the aliens the true meaning of human ingenuity. Alara smiled faintly. This was only the beginning. The nebula of silent echoes swirled around the human fleet like a living canvas, its colors shifting and flowing in waves of violet, blue, and gold. Princess Alara stood at the helm of the Aurora's edge, her eyes scanning the alien formations beyond the drifting gas clouds. The coalition had begun to recognize that their advantage was slipping away. Their once perfect formations now twisted in hesitation, slowed by uncertainty, and haunted by the ghosts of ships that did not exist. The neural decoy network had performed flawlessly, but Alara knew that relying solely on illusions would not secure victory. It was time for humans to demonstrate true ingenuity. Captain Ravan stepped forward, his voice measured. "Princess, the Vork command cruiser is now isolated. If we act carefully, we can gain full control of the situation without unnecessary risk to our fleet." Alara nodded. "Excellent, but we must act subtly. Humans do not simply overpower others, we outthink them. Let them believe they still control the battlefield. Then we show them the truth of human capability." She turned her gaze to the display, watching the alien ship struggle to regain formation. Even the tellies, whose crystalline hulls reflected energy with eerie precision, seemed hesitant. They pulsed sporadically, unsure whether signals were real or decoy. This hesitation was exactly what Alara had been preparing for. "Lieutenant Mara," Alara said, her voice calm but decisive, "your squad will approach the Vork cruiser from the northern corridor. Use the nebula currents to mask your movement. Collect as much data as possible. We need to understand their coordination patterns, communication systems, and decision cycles. Report every anomaly directly to me." "Yes, Princess," Mara replied, her voice steady. She turned to her team, issuing soft commands that echoed through the fleet. Ships glided into position, weaving between energy currents, avoiding sensors, and slipping past obstacles as though they were part of the nebula itself. Alara's mind wandered briefly, thinking of the countless generations of humans who had faced impossible odds. On Earth, humans had survived plagues, famines, and wars. In the early centuries of interstellar exploration, they had been dismissed as fragile, disorganized, and predictable. Yet here they were, a tiny fleet surrounded by overwhelming forces and still advancing with confidence, still rewriting the rules of engagement. The galaxy had never understood humanity, and that was their greatest strength. The Vork, frustrated by their inability to control their command cruiser, began sending repeated signals to coordinate with the Shiren and the Tellies. But their communication was slow, hampered by interference from both the nebula and the humans' decoys. Every command arrived late, every order misinterpreted. The aliens were still powerful, but power without coordination was far less threatening than a small, cohesive, and adaptable force. Alara tapped her console, bringing up a live feed from Mara's squad. The northern channel shimmered with the faint outlines of Vork systems, their energy flows highlighted in ghostly blues and greens. Mara's team moved silently, documenting every detail. Sensors, propulsion mechanisms, and energy distribution nodes were all recorded with meticulous precision. Every weakness, every point of potential advantage was now visible to Alara and her officers. "Princess," Ravan said, leaning closer, "we can predict their next moves. They will attempt a realignment in 15 minutes. If we position our fleet correctly, we can force them to overcorrect. Their own formations will become their obstacle." Alara's lips curved into a small smile. Exactly. We are not merely reacting, we are guiding their decisions. Humans do not always need to strike to gain victory. Influence can be far more powerful than force. She adjusted the fleet's formation, a subtle movement that would go unnoticed by alien sensors, but would have a profound impact on the aliens' calculations. The Aurora's edge led the way, threading between clouds of nebula gas, while smaller human vessels mirrored the movement precisely. Phantom ships continued to appear, flickering in and out, suggesting reinforcements where none existed. The aliens noticed and panicked, believing the humans were regrouping into a massive counteroffensive. The Chiron hesitated in their advance, unsure whether to attack or defend. The Vork miscalculated their angles, drifting dangerously close to asteroid clusters. The Tellies, sensitive to fluctuations, slowed their pulses, uncertain of the patterns in front of them. Alara watched it unfold like a chess master observing pieces moving across the board. Every hesitation, every misstep was exactly what she had planned. Humans had always excelled in situations where adaptability mattered more than brute strength. They saw opportunity where others saw danger, made decisions where others froze in indecision. "Princess," Mara reported, "we've identified multiple critical nodes in the Vork cruiser. Their propulsion system is not fully integrated with their sensors. They rely heavily on centralized calculations. If we exploit this, they could be forced to drift without control for a significant period." Alara's eyes sparkled. "Perfect. We will guide them gently into their own mistakes. No direct attack, just precision influence. Humans have always won by understanding, not by brute force. Initiate the influence protocols. Subtlety is our ally." The Northern Squad executed the maneuver flawlessly. Tiny ships, invisible through most sensors, positioned themselves near key Vork nodes. They emitted small, controlled pulses that subtly interfered with the cruiser's calculations, creating tiny deviations in its trajectory. The Vork officers, sensing error but unable to locate the source, overcompensated. The cruiser drifted slightly off course, forcing the surrounding ships to adjust. Across the nebula, the ripple effect began. Alien formations twisted and slowed, their communication delayed, their coordination faltering. The humans' precision and timing created an advantage far beyond the size of their fleet. Each small adjustment, each minor interference, amplified throughout the coalition's lines. What had started as a minor disruption became a cascading series of hesitations and errors. Alara turned to Ravan, her voice calm but firm. "Now we move to the relay phase, small, precise maneuvers, influence without confrontation, show them that humans operate differently." Ravan nodded, understanding completely. The human fleet shifted slightly, as if breathing in unison. Ships moved along calculated paths, weaving between nebula currents, sending signals that suggested multiple fleets converging from unseen directions. Phantom vessels continued to flicker across sensors, reinforcing the illusion. The aliens struggled. Their assumptions about human behavior were shattered. They had expected panic, retreat, or desperation. Instead, they faced creativity, calmness, and coordinated subtlety. Every hesitation they made was a victory for the humans. Even the Chiron, normally composed and logical, began to question their strategy. "These humans," a Chiron officer transmitted, "they are unpredictable, not chaotic but deliberate. Their actions cannot be predicted with our algorithms." Alara heard the transmission and allowed herself a small smile. Humans had always relied on thinking beyond the obvious. They did not follow patterns easily detected. They created patterns that others could not anticipate. This was the essence of human ingenuity, the reason humans had survived against countless civilizations. Mara's squad completed their survey and transmitted full data to the Aurora's edge. Alara studied the information, noting weak points, inefficiencies, and tendencies in the alien coordination. "Excellent work," she said. "We now know how to guide them further. This is not about destruction. It is about teaching the galaxy that humans are not predictable." They will remember this day. The Vork cruiser, still drifting slightly off course, caused the surrounding ships to overcompensate again. The Tellies, sensing energy fluctuations, began to mirror the adjustments incorrectly. The Chiron, trying to coordinate through the interference, slowed their movement. Across the nebula, the coalition's advantage dissolved. The humans, though surrounded, held influence over the battlefield. Alara knew the final step would be subtle but decisive. The aliens would be forced to make a choice, continue to react to humans or pause and reassess. Either choice gave humans power. Reacting kept them under influence. Pausing allowed humans to dictate the next movement. Princess, Ravan said quietly, they're beginning to hesitate entirely. Their fleet is at a standstill trying to figure out what is real. Alara nodded. Exactly, let them freeze, let them overthink. Humans thrive when others falter in doubt. Observation, adaptation, subtlety, this is how we win. Not with sheer force, but with clarity and ingenuity. The hours passed like minutes. The nebula became a theater, with the humans conducting a silent symphony of movement and influence. Every adjustment, every subtle pulse of interference, every phantom ship projected through the neural network reinforced one truth. Humans were different, unpredictable, and brilliant in ways no alien had anticipated. Finally, the aliens began to communicate hesitantly. Their signals carried uncertainty, hesitation, and even admiration. "They are guiding us," one Vork officer transmitted almost in disbelief. "We cannot predict their actions. Their coordination is flawless in subtlety." Alara allowed herself a rare, private smile. Humans had turned the tables once again. They had not destroyed the alien fleet. They had demonstrated something far more valuable: the power of intelligence, adaptability, and courage. The coalition's greatest advantage, their numbers and technology, had been neutralized by creativity and precise thinking. "Prepare for the next stage," Alara said to her officers, her voice calm, steady, and full of authority. "We will not strike unnecessarily, but we will show them the strength of human ingenuity. Today, humans have proven that even surrounded, they can guide the actions of those who think themselves superior." Her eyes scanned the stars beyond the nebula. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, civilizations would hear of this encounter. They would hear of a small human fleet, outnumbered and surrounded, yet unbroken. They would hear of a princess who commanded without fear, who guided her people through impossible circumstances with intelligence and subtlety. And they would understand, finally, that humans were not just survivors. They were thinkers, adapters, and innovators. They thrived where others failed. They succeeded where others hesitated. They never, ever retreated. The nebula shimmered as if acknowledging the moment. The humans had not yet won the battle completely, but they had already won a far greater victory, proving to the galaxy that human ingenuity was a force to be respected. And Princess Alara, standing calmly on the bridge, knew that when the next phase came, humans would be ready, not just to survive, but to triumph. The nebula of silent echoes shimmered around the human fleet like liquid glass, reflecting the colors of distant stars. Princess Alara stood at the bridge of the Aurora's edge, her posture calm and unyielding. Around her, the human fleet moved with synchronized precision, a living testament to human ingenuity and discipline. The alien coalition, Chiron, Vork, and Teles, remained cautious, their formations hesitant, their calculations uncertain. The humans had survived the impossible so far, and now it was time to turn survival into undeniable triumph. Captain Ravan approached, his expression a mix of awe and respect. "Princess, their hesitation is growing. They are no longer certain of any move. The Vork command cruiser is completely isolated. The Chiron and Teles are reconsidering every action." Alara nodded, her mind already calculating the next phase. "Good. Humans do not simply wait for opportunity, we create it. Today, we will prove that even surrounded, humans are masters of strategy and adaptability. Prepare the fleet for the observation phase. Let us guide them to the realization of our capabilities." Lieutenant Mara and her squad had been monitoring the Vork cruiser closely. Their data showed that every adjustment made by the cruiser forced corresponding shifts in the surrounding alien formations. The aliens, trying to maintain order, were slowly trapped in a cycle of overcompensation. The human fleet had achieved something remarkable: influence without direct confrontation, control without aggression. "Princess," Mara said quietly, "if we proceed carefully, we can extend our influence to the Chiron and Teles simultaneously. They will begin to doubt their own calculations and assumptions entirely. The more they hesitate, the stronger our position becomes." Alara smiled faintly. "Exactly, let hesitation work in our favor. Every second they question themselves is a victory for humanity. Every moment they overthink is an advantage we can use." The Aurora's edge moved forward slightly, its engines blending with the nebula currents. The smaller human ships followed, maintaining perfect alignment, while phantom ships flickered across sensors, suggesting a growing, unstoppable fleet. The aliens watched warily, unsure which vessels were real, which were illusions, and which might be waiting to strike. Alara's calm demeanor inspired her crew. Humans had always been resilient because of this combination: courage under pressure, clear thinking in chaos, and the ability to act decisively when others hesitated. The crew knew the stakes, yet they moved confidently, trusting her leadership and their own skills. The Vork command cruiser, still isolated, began to drift slightly. Its systems, overloaded by interference and miscalculations, forced its neighboring ships to adjust repeatedly. The Chiron, sensing instability, slowed their advance. The Tellies mirrored adjustments incorrectly, creating gaps in their formations. Every ripple of indecision amplified the humans' subtle influence. Alara turned to Ravan. "We will now move to the relay phase. Mara, guide your squad to enhance the influence pulses. Minor shifts in energy fields, minimal sensor interference, just enough to reinforce the uncertainty." "Yes, Princess," Mara replied. Her ships glided like shadows, each movement precise, each pulse calculated to heighten alien indecision. The human fleet moved in harmony, their combined subtle actions creating a feedback loop the aliens could not interpret or counter. Across the nebula, the Coalition's communication lines grew chaotic. Chiron officers debated strategy. Vork commanders argued over minor positional changes. Telly's analysts transmitted repeated corrections that contradicted one another. All the while, the humans remained composed, observing, adapting, and influencing. Alara observed this unfolding symphony of hesitation and smiled. Humans did not need to overpower the aliens to win. They only needed to guide them, demonstrate superiority in thought, and prove that raw numbers or technology could not surpass human ingenuity. "Princess," Ravan said, his voice low, "they are beginning to show signs of recognition. The Vork, Chiron, and Tellies are all sending signals indicating respect. They recognize our precision, our adaptability. They realize that underestimation has cost them control." Alara's eyes sparkled. "Exactly. Humans have always excelled when underestimated. We survive, we adapt, and we innovate. Let them understand the true meaning of human capability." The Northern Squad had successfully completed its maneuvers, now reinforcing the subtle influence on the Vork cruiser. Every energy pulse, every adjustment, and every phantom signal had a purpose. The aliens' perception of control diminished further, creating a situation where they were no longer leading. They were following the humans' influence. The nebula itself seemed to respond, its shifting gases creating additional visual misdirection. The colors blurred the outlines of ships, the energy currents altered sensor readings, and the entire environment became a tool in human hands. Alara had trained her fleet to integrate every aspect of their surroundings into their strategy. Here, in the nebula of silent echoes, humans were not just surviving, they were mastering the battlefield. "Princess," Mara reported, "the Vork cruiser is fully under indirect influence. Minor adjustments by our fleet are causing maximum disruption in their formation. The Chiron and Tellies are following their lead." Alara nodded. "Prepare the observation relay. We will now connect all three fleets' feedback loops, subtle influence across the entire coalition. We will demonstrate the power of human thought without firing a single weapon. Humanity thrives because we see opportunity where others see threat, and we act where others hesitate." The human fleet adjusted its formation slightly, creating new angles of subtle influence. Phantom ships moved in coordinated patterns, reinforcing the illusion of overwhelming numbers. Mara's squad pulsed faint signals, gently nudging alien sensors. The aliens struggled to maintain cohesion, their formations now fragmented and hesitant. Alara's voice remained calm and authoritative. "Let them overthink, let them hesitate. Humans are not predictable, they are adaptable, resilient, and ingenious. They do not retreat, they do not surrender, they thrive in chaos." Hours passed in quiet tension. The nebula's colors shifted with the passage of time, casting flickering lights across the bridges of all ships. The aliens' hesitation reached a critical point. The Vork, Chiron, and Tellies realized that their traditional advantages, numbers, firepower, coordination, were rendered meaningless against humans' adaptability and intelligence. "Princess," Ravan said, his voice filled with pride. "The coalition is completely hesitant. They are no longer confident in any maneuver. Every decision is delayed, second-guessed, and influenced by our actions. We control the battlefield without confrontation." Alara allowed herself a brief, private smile. This was the moment humans had prepared for. They were surrounded, outnumbered, and facing powerful adversaries, yet here they were, guiding the actions of the coalition. The aliens had expected panic or surrender, but humans had delivered calm, strategy, and ingenuity instead. "Prepare the final relay," Alara commanded. "We will consolidate our influence and create clarity. Let them see that humans, even when outnumbered and surrounded, are a force to respect. This is our HFY moment." The fleet moved with perfect coordination, subtle adjustments cascading across every vessel. Phantom ships reinforced the presence of the humans. Energy pulses, small and controlled, subtly guided alien movements. The coalition's hesitation became total, their ability to coordinate collapsing under the combined weight of observation, influence, and misdirection. The aliens, realizing their disadvantage, began to slowly retreat, not from fear, but from recognition of human superiority in this encounter. The Shiren signaled a withdrawal, the Vork recalculated and held position briefly before following. The Tellies pulsed cautiously, maintaining distance. No human had fired a weapon, yet the outcome was clear. Humans had won the strategic contest. Alara stood on the bridge, her eyes calm, observing the retreat. She had not needed aggression. She had demonstrated what humans always excelled at: adaptability, intelligence, and subtle mastery of circumstances. The galaxy had underestimated humans for millennia, and today, surrounded and outnumbered, they had been proven wrong. Captain Ravan approached. "Princess, the coalition is withdrawing entirely. They respect our strategy, our adaptability, and our patience." Humans have once again shown the strength of thought over raw force. Alara's gaze remained on the stars. "Humans thrive where others hesitate. We adapt when others falter. We succeed when others retreat." The galaxy will remember this day, not for destruction, but for clarity, strategy, and ingenuity. Lieutenant Myra, still monitoring the northern corridor, transmitted a final report. "All squads are aligned. The coalition is withdrawing without damage. Influence maintained, control established. Humans have turned the impossible into reality." Alara nodded, feeling the pulse of pride in her crew and in herself. Humanity had faced the impossible and emerged triumphant, not through violence, but through intelligence, courage, and precise action. Across the galaxy, tales of the human princess who was surrounded and yet never retreated would spread. Other civilizations would learn a new truth. Humans could not be underestimated, predicted, or controlled by conventional measures. The nebula's colors shifted one final time, reflecting off the human ships as they moved gracefully through the void. Alara allowed herself a moment of reflection. The human fleet had survived, influenced, and triumphed through calm strategy and decisive thinking. The galaxy had been forced to acknowledge human ingenuity. "Princess," Ravan said softly, "they will speak of this encounter for generations. You have proven that even surrounded, humans are masters of adaptation, observation, and resilience." Alara smiled faintly, her eyes still on the retreating coalition. "Yes, Captain. And this is only the beginning. Humans will face many more challenges across the stars. But today, we have proven that our greatest weapon is our mind, our courage, and our refusal to retreat. That is humanity's legacy." The fleet moved steadily through the nebula, emerging into open space, unbroken and stronger for the experience. Each officer and crew member carried the quiet pride of victory, knowing that they had achieved something remarkable without firing a single shot. Humans had won by being smarter, more adaptable, and more fearless than anyone had anticipated. And in the vast, unending galaxy, one truth became undeniable. Humans, even when surrounded, never retreated. They thrived, they adapted, they inspired. And they would continue to do so for generations to come. Princess Alara looked out at the stars, feeling the pulse of human determination stretching across the cosmos. She knew that wherever humans went, they would leave a mark, not through destruction, but through brilliance, courage, and the unyielding spirit that made them extraordinary. The nebula faded behind them, leaving the stars ahead bright and infinite. The human princess had faced the impossible, remained steadfast, and guided her people to a victory that would resonate across the galaxy. And through it all, humanity had proven once again that no matter the odds, they would never, ever retreat. The human princess was surrounded, yet she never retreated.